Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Rena.
Good morning.
We are learning Mishnah Gittin, Perek Test, Chapter 9, the middle of Mishnah Daled. So we're going to start from the beginning and read through it and actually add a little something to the first half of the Mishnah that we learned yesterday and then conclude. Today's Mishnah is sponsored by the Garland children, Zeicha Nishmas, in memory of their uncle, Gabriel ben Moshe Nachum, and the Shama Shavan Aliyah.
Amen.
Okay, Shloish Gittin Pesulin. We have three documents of divorce that are considered invalid, meaning they should not be used. Bim nisas havalat kosher, but if she gets married with them, the child is considered a child that's fit to marry any Jew. Kosav, some examples are these. I mean, all these things are really kosher midaraisa, only possible midrabanan, and the rabbanan said if at the end you use the get, it's still a good get. Kosav b'ksav yadai ben alav edim. He wrote it, the husband wrote it in his handwriting, but there's no witnesses signed on it. Yeshal Avedim, there are witnesses on it. Vein Baizman, but there's no time in it, no date on it. Yesh Baizman has a date, Vein Bayala Eda Echad. But again, it's the handwriting of the husband, and there's only one witness on it. These are three Gittin that are invalid, Vimnisas, but if she gets married with them to someone else, Havalad Kasher, the child is fit to marry any Jew. Okay, so now, the first thing that we have to discuss is that we mentioned that previously we had Mishnayos where the Gittin were invalid midrabanan, and we said that if she gets married with them, the child is considered midrabanan at least of mamzer. Here we're not saying that, and the question is why? What's the difference? So they explain like this here in the notes. The reason they were more lenient in these three cases is that the concerns about time and signatures are not specific to Gittin, but applied to all legal documents. Meaning, there is the same way we had a reason, the same way we say that, if it's handwritten by the husband, so there should be no question of forgery. Everything should be fine then. That applies to other documents also. Now, nonetheless, there still may be a dimid rabbanan to say, well, okay, and that issue that is an issue that applies. That's a concern that applies to other documents as well. In the sense of and second, the reason they were more lenient in these three cases is that the concerns about time and signatures are not specific to Gittin, but apply to all legal documents, right? The actual concern that if it's his, the actual concern that if we let a document without witnesses go because it's his handwriting, that we may, now allow that anybody who writes a document can get, that people will say the document is good without witnesses. That's a concern that we had by Gittin. That's a concern we have by other documents. The need to have a date on it is a concern by Gittin and a concern by other documents too. Nonetheless, since in those cases, meaning the cases of other legal documents, since in those cases such documents are valid even if they lack a date or signature. Okay, hear that? Even if they're lacking the date or the signatures, the halacha is that when they are handwritten by the person with the document, they are actually considered valid. Right? There's no question there that we would say that those documents don't work at all. They may be documents you shouldn't use, but they're not documents that we would say that if they were used, they wouldn't be valid. Yes, there are concerns by those other documents as to if it doesn't have a date, what happens if we just rely on the signature, on the handwriting document of the person giving the document. Those are concerns, but there definitely would not be concerns to say that they're not valid. We wouldn't say that. And therefore, since in those cases such documents are valid even if they lack a date or signatures, the rabbis don't want to completely disqualify them in case of Gittin. But Jan, if I understand this correctly, I'm not saying over clearly, because maybe I'm having some questions here about this, but I think the point here is that when it comes to other documents, if it was handwritten by the person who is giving the document, if it's missing a date, it's valid. It's valid. There are concerns there that they're the same concerns that we have by Gittin that we invalidated, we can have by other documents also. Nonetheless, the rabbis did not invalidate them by those other documents. And therefore, here by Gittin, where they were more stringent, and they said you can't use it, they didn't want to go as far as to say that it's completely invalid, to the point of saying that if she marries somebody else based on it, child's a mamzer. That far we're not going to go. If by other documents where we can have the same concerns, we say the document is valid, even by Gittin where we say they're not valid, you shouldn't use them, we're not going to go as far as to say they're completely invalid and it's considered like she never was divorced. We'll follow the Daraisa Din, that if she gets married, we'll follow the Torah law, that if she does get married with them, then she can stay married and the children are fine from the second husband. Now, the next part of the Mishnah is a very important argument on the first half of the Mishnah. Because the first half of the Mishnah said that if you have a document that was written by the husband without witnesses, it's kosher according to Torah law. What if you have a document not written by the husband and there are no witnesses on it? What's the law then? No good even? Not Torah. Even according to Torah law, it's no good. And here is where the Mishnah brings Rebbe Lazar, who argues. Rebbe Lazar says, even if there's no witnesses on the document itself, but he gave it to her in front of witnesses, kosher. It's a good get. It is a 100% good get. The point, according to Rebbe Lazar, is this is a famous argument. Rebbe Lazar says, Eide Mesira Karsi. What makes the get into a valid document that can now affect the divorce are the witnesses who see it being given to the woman. You don't even need witnesses on the document itself. All you need is witnesses that see it being given over to the woman. And therefore, in the case where we say that there are no witnesses on it, we say, the Tanakh has said no witnesses, no good. That's not necessarily so. Even if there's no witnesses on it and it wasn't written by the husband, as long as he gave it in front of witnesses, it's a kosher get. It's a kosher get. Not only that, the guy and not only that, let's say we're talking about a different document. Let's say we're not talking about a document. We're talking about a document of debt, an IOU. Okay, we're talking about an IOU. And the halacha, as we know, is that if you own property, if you borrow money from someone and you own property, then that property has a lien on it now to the lender. So much so that if you were to sell any of those properties after you borrow the money, the lender can go to the borrower and take it away if there's nothing else to collect from. But the halacha is that is only possible if there is a document. If it was a milva al peh, if it was an oral debt, then the halacha is you can't go and take away from the buyers. It's only if there's a document. If it's a document, then you can take away from those who bought after the lien came onto the properties. Says Rebbe Lezer, if you have an IOU and there's no witnesses on it, but the lender gave the document the borrower gave the document to the lender in front of witnesses, then it's kosher. It's a kosher document, and you can go ahead and you can collect from the buyers because of the lien. Rabbi Eliezer concludes, the reason for this is because the only reason that witnesses sign on a get is only for the benefit of the public. Meaning, if you were to have a get that doesn't have witnesses on it, now let's say you gave the get in front of two witnesses, it's all kosher. But now the husband gets up and says, it's not good, it's not a real get. It's a forgery. So what do you got to do? You got to find those witnesses who saw it being given. What if they're dead? What if they're far away? You can't find them. What are you going to do then? Therefore, the Chachamim instituted that every get should have witnesses signing on it. Why? So that in case you have to go back and if there's kind of claims against the get that it's a forgery, and you want to be able to say it's not, the witnesses that sign on the get are enough to do that. Number one, they will say that it's not a forgery because we signed it and the husband wanted it. And number two, but you may ask, but you need witnesses to see it. Did that happen? If we have a document signed by witnesses that say the document is good, we can assume that everything else was done properly also. So therefore, being that the witness is signing on a get is only for the purposes of tikkun ha'olam, for the purposes of benefiting the public, it's not something that essentially you need. All you need essentially is for witnesses to see the get being given. Therefore, the halacha is that you should have, the halacha is, the Rabbanan said, you're supposed to have witnesses on a get. If there's no witnesses on the get, you shouldn't use it. But I shouldn't say that. You're supposed to have witnesses on the get. But at the end of the day, if the get was given in front of witnesses, it's 100% kosher. It's 100% good. Now, what comes out is like this. But what about the case where, so we say that the point of argument between the Tanakama, the first opinion of Rebbe Lezer, is where you have a document written by a scribe, no witnesses on it, given in front of witnesses. Tanakama says no good, because the Tanakama says Eidei Chasim Karsi. It's the witnesses that sign the document are the ones that make the document into a valid get. You have to have that. Without that, it's not going to be good. Rebbe Lezer says no. You can go ahead and you can have witnesses who see it being given, and that's good enough too. That's good enough also. What about the case of where the husband wrote the get? Is there an argument there? The husband wrote the get, handwritten get by the husband, no witnesses. No witnesses on it. What's the halacha there? Is that get, is that, and, 1 second. Right. What about there? You have a handwritten get without witnesses. And there are no witnesses, not even Eidei Masira. Not even Eidei Masira seeing it. What happens then? So they start bringing it down here like this. Nevertheless, both Rebbe Lezer and Reb Meir agree that a get written in the husband's handwriting without witnesses is considered a document of separation, is biblically valid. Biblically valid. According to Reb Meir, the reason is that his handwriting is like the testimony of 100 witnesses that we had yesterday. If the whole point of witnesses that sign on a document is to say this is a valid document, it's real, right? It's real. The husband wanted it. It's all done well. Okay, so if the husband writes it, we know it's not a forgery either. Okay? Now, therefore, it's good according to him. I guess midaraisa, midrabanan, you still need witnesses to be signed on it. According to Rebbe Lezer, who says Eidei Masira Karsi, you need the witnesses to see it. Even without witnesses to saw it being given, a handwritten get by the husband is kosher according to Torah law. Why? Because the Torah says, "V'kasav lo sefer krisos v'nosan." The straightforward interpretation of those words are, he, the husband, shall write a document of divorce and give it. That means, according to Torah, the Torah says, if the husband writes and the husband gives, kosher. Kosher. That's what Torah says. That's kosher. The only time, even according to Rebbe Lezer, you're going to need witnesses to at least see it is going to be when it's not the husband. Then already, if it's a scribe, it's somebody else writing it, then already you don't have the husband writing giving. Then already, according to Reb Meir, you have to have witnesses signed on the document. According to Rebbe Lezer, all you need is take witnesses to see the document being given. And at the end of the day, what comes out is like this. If a get was not written by the husband, it was not signed by two witnesses, according to the Tanakama, it is biblically invalid. Right? No husband writing it, no witnesses, invalid. Why? You have to, if you don't have the husband writing it, then Eidei Chasim Karsi. You have to have the witnesses who sign to turn it to a valid get. Rebbe Lezer holds it is valid as long as two witnesses saw him give it. Still valid. If it was written by the husband, but not signed by two witnesses, the first one holds it as rabbinically invalid, while Rebbe Lezer holds it is valid as long as two witnesses saw him give it. Meaning, according to the Tanakama, where we say that if it was handwritten by the husband, you don't need Adam signing on it, that's according to Torah law. According to Midrabanan, you do need Adam signing on it. But according to Rebbe Lezer, again, you don't need any witnesses signing on it. As long as the witnesses that see it, the halacha is, it is a valid get to be given. Have a wonderful day and a wonderful Shabbos.
Thank you, Rabbi.